wonderful cioppino, which is an old-fashioned Italian stew that started in San Francisco by the fishermen. When they brought in their catch, they would all share in one pot whatever they had brought in. So it's kind of a seafood soup. But what we are going to start with today is some fresh lobster. We got a gift of, you get a gift of fresh live lobster, you need to cook them right away, because otherwise they'll die and you can't cook fresh dead lobster. They should still be kicking. These are about 1.5 to 2 pounds. And you might notice that their claws are banded so that they can't hurt you. This one's not real lively, but he is still alive. These actually were delayed by a day through mailing, so we lost one. But they're lively. See? Oh, look at him. He spreads his arms out. He's ready to go. Okay. They're all ready to go. They're swirling around. We are going to throw them in a pot of very hot boiling water that has been very heavily salted. Now when you do this, it's a very humane way to do it. I know people have a problem with squeamishing, you know, they're living things, but they really don't have much of a brain, and it's, you know, they're bugs, so to speak. So we're going to put them in head first. That will give them a kill shock, and they will feel nothing after that. All they're going to do is have a nice warm bath. Okay, carefully taking the lobster, we are going to put them in head first. I have 4 lobsters here. To cook them thoroughly through, it would take about 20 minutes. Because I'm going to put them in a cioppino, I'm only going to cook them for about 10 minutes once they come back to a boil. And then I'm going to, oh, he didn't like that so much. And then I am going to cut them in half and finish them in our cioppino. When this comes back to a boil, we are going to cover them up. There's an old wives' tale that lobsters scream when you put them in the pot. They don't. Okay, here's cheers to the lobsters. Okay, as I said, we're going to make these live lobsters into a cioppino, and which is a fish stew. So we have lots of fish and ingredients to go through here, but it's really easy to put together. We're going to start off with our extra virgin olive oil, about 1/4 cup of that. 1 stalk of celery that has been diced. 1 medium onion, which is about 1 cup. Okay, 1 clove of garlic minced, 1 to 2 cloves. Now, don't you hate it when they tell you to use a clove of garlic and you're not quite sure how much that is? Well, let me tell you this. Here's 2 cloves of garlic. Do you think that those are going to yield the same amount? No, of course not. This one's tiny, this one's big. A clove of garlic should yield about 1/2 teaspoon. So depending on how much you like garlic, use 1 to 2 cloves of garlic. I actually use 2 here because I happen to like garlic. Then we have 1/4 cup of fennel diced. When I buy fennel, I always buy the big round ones because I was told by a chef that those are female and they're actually sweeter than the males are. So the skinny ones are male and the fat round ones are female. This is fennel, and this is half. The male would look about like that, and the female's nice and round. Then we have, let's see, we have our 1/2 teaspoon of thyme and 1/2 bay leaf. We have 2 cups of crushed tomatoes. We have 1 cup of bottled clam juice, 1 cup of white wine, a large pinch of red pepper flakes, and some saffron. Now, a lot of people will omit saffron because they think it's really expensive. I happen to get mine at Trader Joe's. It may not be the best quality saffron you can get. Use a little bit more. if you need to. What I always do when I use saffron is I add a little bit of wine because the acidity helps it release its flavor. Along with that, we have salt, and of course, salt. I use freshly ground sea salt. It's a seafood dish, so use sea salt. And the black pepper. Now for the seafood, I'm using some mussels and clams, some fresh shrimp that has been cleaned. Make sure you take the veins out of it. I'm using some nice, beautiful Maine scallops, and just want to make sure that you take that mussel off if it has a mussel on it, because that's where it attaches itself to the shell, and it's just a very tough. Throw that away. I'm using some fresh snapper that I've cut into pieces, and then I'm using some of our wonderful North Coast Dungeness crab, which is currently in season, and it's just so sweet and yummy. Use whatever crab is around. Sounds like my lobsters are done. Use whatever crab is in season for you, but Dungeness crab can't be beat. You're so lucky. Okay, the lobsters are done, at least done enough for us to get them finished, and so I'm going to pull them out of the hot water. They're nice bright red. Notice how red they are? Okay, while we let these cool, we're going to start our Cioppino. Okay, we're only going to use 2 of the 4 lobsters we received today in our Cioppino. So I'm finishing off the other 2 lobsters for the full 20 minutes, so they'll be cooked. They'll make a wonderful salad or some lobster ravioli or maybe some Chinese shrimp with lobster sauce. Ooh, doesn't that sound good? I'm hungry already. Okay, so for now, we're going to start making our Cioppino. We're going to start off with our extra virgin olive oil, about 1/4 cup. You want to make sure the bottom of the pan is well covered. And to that, we're going to add our onions, our celery, our fennel, and our garlic. I love to have everything prepared in advance and all chopped up. That way you never forget an ingredient and you're sure you have everything you need to make the dish. We're going to saute this until they're nice and tender, about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, our vegetables are nice and tender. We can kick the heat up a little bit now. You can kind of sweaten them, which is cooking them on a lower heat so that they give up their juices. Now we're going to add the white wine. Use a nice dry white wine. This is a Chardonnay, but it's a dry, not an oaky Chardonnay. If this or a Sauv Blanc, either one would work well. So we added the white wine and it's simmering and it's reducing by about half. The next what we're going to do is we're going to add the tomatoes. The clam juice. This is just bottled clam juice. I didn't make my own clam juice. The thyme and the bay leaf. A good pinch of red pepper flakes because I like it a little bit spicy. And then, of course, our saffron that has been soaked in wine. If it gets stuck in there, just put a little bit of stuff in there and swirl it around. Pepper. And some freshly ground. As I said, I'm using sea salt because it's a sea dish. I use only sea salt and kosher salt. So this is a gray sea salt. Don't add too much though, because you don't know how the crab and all the other stuff that you're going to put into it is going to affect the dish. So you can always add more later. Okay, now we're ready to cut up our lobsters. We're going to start by taking off the rubber bands that they put on to keep the lobsters from hurting you and hurting each other, actually. And we're going to grab the claw meat off, and then we are going to, because we're serving this in a Cioppino, these little legs they really don't have much in them. And if you want to save them for something, save them along with the shells to make like a lobster bisque, because it'll add good flavor to that. But getting the meat out of that just isn't really worth the trouble. What we're going to do is we're going to start in the midway section. We're going to wipe our hands off and make sure they're nice and dry so the knife doesn't cut us. I'm going to get rid of that little piece there because it seems to be interrupting me. Cut down. Don't worry if you don't cut it all the way through. You can use scissors to finish it. Turn the other way and cut down the tail. Takes a little bit of force, but you can get it done. Let's just break these apart. See this green, this stuff in the middle? This is called the tamale. This is actually the liver. And it's very, very tasty, and I like to add it to my cioppino because it gives it a depth of flavor. But if it doesn't appeal to you, then, you know, don't worry about it. Throw it away. You don't need to use it. We're going to cut the shell down this way with our kitchen shears. And now we have a nice piece of lobster. We're going to look for this is the intestinal tract, so you want to remove that. So just use your fingers or a paring knife and pull that out. The fun of having cioppino is to be able to use your fingers to remove your meats from your various components. So we're just going to crack it so it makes it easier to get to the meat once it's in the cioppino. But we're not going to take the shell off. We're going to heat it up in the shell. For this part of the claw, just again use your kitchen shears, a little bit of force. Cut it and leave it in the shell. You can also, if you don't have a cracker for your lobster, you can use the back of a sharp knife with a nice crunch, and that also opens it up. Okay, we're ready to start making the cioppino part. This has been simmering for about 20-25 minutes. All the flavors are good. We're going to put our shellfish in first. Kick it up a little bit, the heat. So what I like to do is when they start opening, I take them out pretty much immediately because I don't want them to get overcooked. Tough seafood is not good, and that's why I think a lot of people say they don't like seafood. It's too fishy, it's too tough. So if you cook it properly, you're probably going to love it. So these are already opening. So I'm going to use a pair of tongs, and I'm just going to start removing them to the same bowl that they were in before. You are going to discard any that don't open. A lot of people are worried about when to determine whether something's opened or not. That's definitely open. That's really open, and that's also really open. As long as it's mostly open and not tight shut, it's considered open. So here we are pulling them out as they open. As I said, I don't want to get them overcooked and have tough seafood. Definitely not opened. But you can leave it in there while you cook the rest of the stuff, and he may just be a slow goer. So he may open up, but if he doesn't open up by the end of your cooking, throw him away. It's not worth it. Now we're going to add our scallops that we've taken the muscle off, and our shrimp. so you want to cook these just so that they're opaque. The scallops and the shrimp, the shrimp will turn pink. The scallops are going to turn opaque. And now we're going to add our fish. I like to use it in kind of a big piece, so otherwise it just like turns into flakes in the sauce, and that's not very good. And once we add those, we can add our crab. I mean, look at this. This is decadent how much seafood is in here. It's just, the crab just has to heat up. It's already cooked. And our lobster pieces. Claws. This is a lot of good seafood. And we haven't even added back our clams yet. So if you like a lot more broth, you can add a little bit more wine to the broth. But it's really a seafood stew, not a seafood soup. So you really want to be able to get to your pieces of seafood and have them in the sauce, but not covered in it so that you can't get to them, because you need to pick the meat out of these things. Okay, so we're plating, and what you do is try to divide the seafood as evenly as you can amongst the bowls. But you know, if you're the cook and you like something better, go ahead and snag the best pieces for yourself. Have a nice bowl of Cioppino. Put a little bit of parsley on top. And Lindy says, cheers. Here's to a good Cioppino and a wonderful fresh lobster.